Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the Coach, from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Jeff, it's the tag team match that changed the game. Edge and Christian, the Hardys, No Mercy 1999. This match was just something that we had never seen before. But first, how the hell are you doing?
Doing good. This is exciting. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. It's got a fun little story. We just recently, seeing Terry Runnels on our TV again for better or worse during Dark Side. And so Dark Side really causing a stir this season.
It's interesting. I had that on my list to talk about during
we won't spoil it, but yeah. So we'll get there. And so
I wanted to revisit the first couple episodes of the season.
We'll get there. But one thing I will spoil, because we don't want to wait to tell everyone about it. As always, make sure you're going to manscaped.com using our promo code payoff20. That's payoff20. That code leak, we had to get a new code. And so payoff not working anymore, but payoff20. That's what you're looking for. And so it gets you 20% off the entire store, everything on their website, as well as free shipping. And so make sure you're using that code. It just supports us. That's what we're looking for. And so we want to make sure that, our fans are happy. Our fans are getting, looking good for whoever it might be, maybe whether it's themselves, partner, we want everyone to feel good, look good. We're all about that positivity here, just like the New Day. And so make sure you're using our code at manscaped.com, payoff20.
Yeah, so, even if it was just for me, I'd still want to be, relatively clean down there.
Looking good, with the weather cooling down a little bit, at least for me, I know you're in a little bit more warmer temperatures than I am, but you know what? Like I still don't need the mane, still don't need it to, look like the jungle down there. And so, I want to look good. And so that's what I'm all about. So,
and if I was participating in the Terry Invitational tournament, I'd certainly want to be Manscaped.
I would definitely want to impress. Absolutely.
So last week we covered arguably the best tag team match in WWF history up to that point, which was 1994. I said that it might have been the best tag match in the 90s. This week we're covering what may or may not be your number one tag team match in the 90s, which very end of the 90s, October 17th, 1999. So, Jeff, one of the things that'll be interesting is, how does this hold up versus all these other tag ladder matches we had since it? And then the other thing is, how does this hold up against the one we watched last week that we said may have very well been the best in the 90s tag match? So that's what I'm excited for. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one where, again, I feel like we've covered a lot of like Edge, Christian, Hardys, Dudleys and things like that. But we really they just had so many damn good matches. Like, what are you supposed to do when, we keep getting all these different things? And part of it is their longevity in the business. Like we're getting, it was different stipulations or, we're looking at different times of their career. Like shit, we could do a whole retrospective, a whole podcast and fill a year on just the matches that these three, I say that those three tag teams, like these, 6 guys did, because there's just so much meat on that bone. And so why wouldn't we want to, cover as much of these as possible? And you're about to go through the card and let us know, but there were some pretty decent matches on this one. And this was the best match of the night. And so, good stuff there. And just, a lot happening at this pay-per-view. It was good stuff.
Let's get into the build.
Ho, people, it's time for the build.
All right, so No Mercy 99, 10/17/99, Cleveland, Ohio, Gund Arena, now known as the Quicken Loans Arena. We've actually already covered this show, Jeff, because of the Good Housekeeping match with China winning the IC title against Jeff Jarrett. But man, what a wild show, man. You had Fabulous Moolah wrestling a match. You had The Rock and the British Bulldog. Talk about two different eras. You had this match. And the main event of Triple H and Stone Cold in a anything goes match, which was a 4-star match and a great main event. But the reason we're here and the best match on this show is this tag team match, and really excited to cover it. And interestingly enough, just a couple pretty big stories happening at the same time. Gorilla Monsoon passed away. He was only 62 years old.
Crazy.
Which I couldn't believe.
I'm actually surprised. Until you just said that, I would not have thought that.
Yeah, it's a shame. And I know he had some illness and he hadn't been doing well for a while, but it just felt bad. I just assumed he was older than that. And then the other big piece of news was the Darren Drozdov injury.
Yep.
And gosh, I just, for all the horrible things we've seen in wrestling, even like Steve Austin being dropped on his neck, there's not many times where something that horrible happens. And even like a Magnum TA, it happened outside the ring. So, rarely do you see something that bad in the ring. And then, of course, the horrible irony in all of it is it wasn't a dangerous move. It wasn't a dangerous situation. It truly was just a wild freak accident, but felt horrible about that. So storyline standpoint, how do we get to this?
Yeah, so let's start with, so this is Edge and Christian versus the New Brood, but let's talk about who the Brood was and kind of where that came from, because it does involve some of the same players. And so the original members of the Brood, Edge, Christian, and Gangrel, all debuted in 1998. You had Edge debuting. It was June 22nd. It was an episode of Raw is War. And he actually entered as through the crowd for that one. You had Gangrel debuting August 16th. It was an episode of Sunday Night Heat. And then you had Christian debuting September 27th. It was actually In Your House Breakdown 1998, where he actually at the time distracted Edge, who then ended up losing his match to Owen Hart that night. And so, as we all know, in retrospect, you would have never had any reason to doubt it, but introducing Christian as Edge's brother, which the guys had just known each other forever. And so that's how they introduced him. It could have fooled me at the time. It did fool me at the time. And so you had that. So those were so a lot of just this developing over really just a couple months, kind of what was happening and things like that in order to get this. And so at the time you had the Hardy Boys were actually with Michael Hayes, and then the Brood, so this is the OG Brood taking on the Hardy Boys and kind of fighting outside the ring. And so this is where you really started to get, it was May 17th, 1999, where you first started to get the rivalry of Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys. And so now at the time, though, Edge and Christian were part of the Brood, but we'll get there later. So, and how that mixed up. A week later, you had Edge and Gangrel losing a tag team championship match. And then 3 weeks later on Sunday Night Heat, you had the OG Brood defeating the Hardy Boys. And Michael Hayes was a 6-man elimination tag match. A month later, another episode of Sunday Night Heat. Crazy to think how this was playing out on Sunday Night Heat, but it was. And so now we're into July, Sunday Night Heat. And so we got to remember that this is the time too of the corporate ministry. So you had the Brood losing to the corporate ministry, and the members that evening were the Big Boss Man, Mideon, and Viscera. And you actually had Gangrel turning on Edge that night. And so the Brood, the cracks have now cracked fully, and we're at this point. And so Gangrel trying to get Christian to join him as well too and leave Edge, but you had Edge and Christian were the ones that were splitting for Gangrel. Gangrel then aligning himself with Matt and Jeff Hardy, giving you the New Brood. And so the New Brood, though, it was actually the Hardy Boys dumped Michael Hayes as their manager. It was actually that August, so a couple of weeks later. turning heel as well too. And so really just like a culmination of really May, June, July, August, so 4 months, and these guys just playing out between each other, and then Gangrel really being like the centerpiece of how the teams were going to break up and come together and things like that. So prior to the show, you then had the new brood of who is now Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy in the rivalry with Edge and Christian, taking place. It was in the midst of the Terry Invitational Terminal. You can put those first few letters together and come up with the abbreviation for this one. And so you've got the Terry Invitation Terminal. Now, the stipulations for this were the winners would receive $100,000, like $19.99, $100,000. That's going to go a long way. I would, hey, I'd be all for that. But then also receiving the management and leadership of Terry Runnels as well. So this is actually a best of 5 tournament. Beginning September 30th on SmackDown, you had actually these guys go back and forth every week. So until it was tied up 2-2, taking us to this October 17th date with the pay-per-view being the final deciding match in the tournament. And so you have factions splitting and, forming and reorganizing, if you will. You've got this invitational tournament with Terry Runnels going on as well, too. And so you had that. And so you had just a lot of pieces at play here for how a lot of storyline pieces at play here for what was happening on TV, what was going on over the course of really about 5-6 months that summer, early summer into fall of 1999. It's good stuff.
Okay.
Thoughts? Ready for it?
I'm ready for it. I'm excited for this one. I don't know. We'll talk more about it. We've seen so many ladder matches.
Yes. And so, but we're going to do another one. And so this is for everybody at home. This is Edge and Christian, not part of the Brood. So Edge and Christian versus the new Brood, Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy.
We're at the hour 14 mark of No Mercy 1999 season 1 on Peacock. 1 hour and 14 minute mark. Jeff, are you ready?
Freaking Peacock. Yep. 114. Let's do it.
I'm going to point at you when to hit play.
I'm ready, man. I got Peacock ready.
It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
All right, here we go. They're showing the $100,000 over the ring. Jeff,
bag of money. Yes.
What do you think 1999's $100,000 is worth in today's dollars?
Oh, I don't know. Is it 200,000-300,000 or something like that?
Only 164,000.
Oh my God, inflation's just terrible. I would have thought it was higher. Like same here.
I'm surprised. So, all right, let's look at these 4 guys here. So,
gosh, off right out of the gate. Yep.
So, here's the first observation. They're all still wrestling full time.
Yep. Crazy.
You watch this match, you think these guys are going to be in a wheelchair at this point in their lives. Oh no, they're all still wrestling full time. They're all still working regular television matches. It's unbelievable.
Well, it's crazy to think like this is young. Like all these guys are young, but like, within a year of debuting, this is, the match we're getting. And so, these guys kind of doing this. So you got Edge and Christian kind of out of the gate looking a lot faster, a lot harder, kind of taking out the Hardy Boys. They tried making their way up to get some ladders. Got Gangrel ringside as well too. And now walking up the ramp. Oh, and here we go. Oh, getting attacked by the Hardys again. Yeah, it is crazy to think like just how much I'll say reinvented, but like they haven't really reinvented themselves that much. Like, you think like someone like William Regal, who's had like characters over the years and personas and things like that. But like, they've kind of always been the Hardy Boys. Like they've always kind of been Edge and Christian. Like, yeah, they had some different shticks, like the comedy stuff, but like they haven't swayed too far from like who they are.
Well, no, and they still kind of wear the same stuff into the ring too. I mean, Edge and Christian still wear their same gear, change some gimmicks and stuff, but they still wear basically the same gear. And the Hardys, I mean, Matt's obviously, done some different stuff, but Jeff's kind of just been Jeff.
Oh, hello. And we're already flying over here. We got guys going all over the place. I mean, Christian got a haircut. Edge did not. He just grew a goatee, So that's about that was the biggest change for him. So you got Christian and Matt in the ring right now. It looks like Matt, diving as Edge is trying to bring a ladder into the ring here. Yep, crazy.
So we got Edge and Christian, the two Canadians in here. So let me ask you this: what did you think of Owen Hart, Foundation Owen Hart tournament with AEW? What was your reaction?
I think fantastic. I think I'll just outright say it, like, to the people that are shitting on it and say it should have been like WWE or WWE should have been the ones to do it. Like, fuck you. Like, no.
Oh, like, was that out there?
That was out there that, like, why are they the ones doing it? It should be WWE. Like, no, like what? Like, no, I do not trust them to protect his legacy. They obviously haven't. And, it's a whole thing. And so, yeah, you know what? Like, and I think it's a very legitimate, good cause. I think we all saw that dark side, or, the majority of us saw that dark side. If you haven't, definitely go watch it. I still have memories of, that some of the stuff they showed in that episode and us not knowing is just crazy. But I think it's an absolutely fantastic move and for something that they're doing and to a rightful person. You're bringing Brett back. He's going to show up at some point, and I think rightfully so. And I think that they're going to. I was recently watching like the NFL Hall of Fame like knocks series, where like the president of the Hall of Fame goes and knocks on like the players' hotel doors or like home, and like and one of the things he would say is like, "We will protect your legacy forever." Like, and that's why I said that, because I think like AEW would do a very good job of protecting his legacy and who he was.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw it, but I'm like, gosh, this is, look, if you're an Owen Hart fan, this is the best you're going to get.
Yep.
Because the only other option was nothing.
Yep.
And not, it wasn't happening with Vince and the WWE. Okay. It just wasn't happening.
Nope. And they don't deserve it.
Could it have happened? Sure. But it was clear that this was not going to happen. Okay. Hall of Fame, any involvement. It just, we just found out that, there were obviously the wounds were not going to heal. Some do, some don't. Savage never buried the hatchet. Bret Hart did, right? So some people do, some people don't. Bruno came back in the fold, but gosh, man, this was just really bad. And, you saw from the dark side of the ring, nothing has been healed in terms of, the anger towards this. And obviously, rightfully so, who can blame, his family for the way they feel. So if you, love Owen Hart and you wanted something, this is as good as it's going to get in any of our lifetimes.
So you got Edge climbing the ladder. You got Jeff diving into Edge, who's about halfway up the ladder and drop kicking him off. Like, these guys, you had a power bomb from Edge to Matt. Like, and so these guys are already like, a couple minutes in, some really stiff and intense spots on each other. They've got the baby ladder too. I don't know. Are we going to see a big ladder on this one? I don't know.
We'll see. Who knows?
We've only got one ladder.
This is early on in the ladder match. That we would later get.
And I believe, if I forget if I have this in my notes or if I read it somewhere, or Twitter let me know, this was, I think, one of the first matches to do, and I might be mixing it up with something else, one of the first matches to do the camera down, like looking like from like the top of from the money bag looking down into the ring. And so
I would assume this was the first time.
And so, I'm not 100%. I'll have to look. Oh, ladder falling. Look out. Yep. Didn't hit anybody.
So you brought up Twitter.
Yeah, sure.
I told you a little bit about this, but let me fill everyone listening in. And some of this I probably didn't even tell you. So I'm sitting on my couch a few weeks ago. It's a Sunday. Okay. And I'm just scrolling through Twitter. And I have my own payoff at Payoff Tom, which is just all wrestling. It's all I do is talk wrestling. It's all I do is follow wrestling people. It's my wrestling Twitter. And I am, just commenting. And Jeff, you've known me a long time. I've got a dry sense of humor. I'm a pretty sarcastic guy.
Yep.
And someone posts the AEW tag team division. And they said, how incredible is this? This is the greatest tag team division in the world, in any wrestling promotion. And I wrote, it can't touch SmackDowns. Clearly, Jeff, I'm being sarcastic.
Right. Not to the internet.
So I go back a few hours later. I mean, this thing had like 50 comments. It had all this stuff. Jeff, you start scrolling through, and it was like not nice.
Nope.
Like people were saying very mean things to me.
Yeah.
And so my takeaways are a few things. Number one, how bitter do you have to be to not even be able to understand and laugh at sarcasm, and then immediately want to pile on with mean stuff to someone you don't know on the fucking internet on a Sunday?
This is what you get, man. Wrestling,
Okay.
we're never happy as wrestling fans. You should.
So takeaway one is like, I truly felt sorry for the people that couldn't even understand sarcasm and are just so bitter they had to say things. Okay, number one. Number two, you know me. I'm a happy guy. I feel very fortunate for the things I have in my life, friends, family.
Right.
I feel for the people that have mental health issues.
Yep.
And go on to this internet cesspool, social media, internet message boards, whatever it is, and are treated like this because they're not going to have the same perspective I had. I'm sitting there like, I'm a little bothered, but I'm like, oh, fuck you, whatever, right? I'm going to go play with my kid. I'm going to go for a workout. I'm going to go, kiss my wife, whatever. Not a big. But I'm thinking about people that are lonely, people that have low self-confidence, people that maybe have been bullied, people that are down on their luck in life. And can you imagine if you're treated that way and you're already fragile?
Yeah.
It's sad.
Well,
So the people commenting, they don't know me. For all they know, I've got mental health issues. I'm suffering from depression. I've been hit hard by COVID from myself or people that I know that, I'm suicidal. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
And then
There's just no compassion.
Assume that people shouldn't be treated that way and just don't treat people that way.
Well, and wrestling fans, we know we're some of the worst. And like,
it's all walks of life.
But
it's
but that's what I was gonna say. Not an excuse for it either. And so, and that's why too. Like one of my favorite kind of comments on Twitter was always like, I post on Twitter because I don't care about my mental wellness, and I don't care, and I read the comments because I don't care about wasting my time. And so, like, like that's some of the mentality with some of this of just like, it's a waste of time, like, to go after someone. And so at the same time, like, watch some wrestling. Like we had this match going on. We've had some spots that we hadn't seen in a while. We had some like drop kicks into ladders. We had them sliding the ladder into Matt Hardy, and like, in between his legs while he's sitting in the corner, and then kicking it while he's there.
Yeah, it's just one thing after another in this.
We
match.
got them closing the ladder. Jeff Hardy laid in between the opening of the ladder and then them opening and closing it and kicking him and all kinds of other stuff. Fans are mostly on their feet. We will talk about that a little bit after. And so, yep. Oh boy, that just so much rough action here. You got Edge climbing up. They got two little ladders. We got 8-footers in there. Yep. We got 2 8-footers. And so now are we gonna get the spot with everybody up on the ladder now? What do we got here? Nope. Maybe. Oof, just a wicked neck breaker from about 3/4 of the way up.
Yeah, the other thing that this little Twitter thing enlightened me on is just how bad this like AEW versus WWE stuff is. I didn't realize how bad it was, and I'm like, why can't you just enjoy both, or just don't watch one of them?
Well, and this goes back to the old Xbox, PlayStation argument too. It's some of the same people, like, and PlayStation actually made fun of it one year with one of the things they had come out, and they're like, if you have a pretty girlfriend and somebody else gets a pretty girlfriend, who wins? Everyone. Like, that's how it should be. Like, it just, that was like the same argument of like, which video game system, like, who gives a shit? Like, same with wrestling and tossing them off the top. And the grand scheme of things, like, who cares? Yeah. Like, it just, it really, like, if we're enjoying wrestling, and that's the thing, like, I know, like, you've watched way more ECW than me. I've watched way more New Japan than you. Not to say that I'm going to be like, well, screw you, buddy, like, for watching ECW, like, what a mark. And no, like, we're all watching really good wrestling. And people got exposed, like with the Omega Danielson match, like they got exposed to some of that New Japan style and how stiff. And that's the thing. Like, I've said it before, and I think this is how it is. Like, if you want a sports entertainment show, watch WWE. That's what they're going to give you. If you want a wrestling show, watch AEW. That's what they're going to give you. And so, but not to say that one's right or wrong over the other.
Yeah, I know. And I just can't imagine being that amped up. And again,
everybody's getting, what do we got here? Oh boy, we got Edge between Christian's legs. You got Jeff Hardy on the top rope. Looks like Edge trying to go for some kind of suplex. Edge getting tossed out. You got ladders set up slingshot style. And here it comes. Oh,
yeah, you're right. They are all on their feet, huh?
And Jeff jumping and kind of seesawing the ladder up into Matt and Christian's faces. Somebody bust their face. Can't tell. Yep. And everybody up on their feet though.
And this is not critical of AEW. I do want to float one thing out there.
Sure.
Is they do need to make sure that the storylines are there.
Yes.
Like, I don't think that forever you can just say, hey, this is Punk, this is Bryan, they're going to wrestle, and everyone's just like, holy shit, dream match. It's and again, they've done like the Jericho stuff with MJF and the five, whatever it was.
Yep.
Yeah, that was great. So I would just say, you need to, there need to be good storylines. You can't just rely on great wrestler, great match.
And I totally agree, because you know what? At this point, yeah. So they've signed some incredible people. Do something with it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that
we're literally like less than a month since Adam Cole's debut. Like, yeah. We got a long road to go here, but yeah. And so,
what else is lost in all of this? Sting's tearing down the fucking house.
Oh my God. Yeah. Seriously.
Like,
here we go. We got everybody's up on ladders. Everybody's falling over on the ropes. Oh my gosh, Matt.
Yeah. Wow.
Matt tumbled to the outside. That was yikes. So both guys were about 3/4 of the way up, and then both ladders just kind of falling over. Matt is just selling out. Everybody's on their feet. I don't know what the cheers sound like on this one right now, but these guys everyone's losing their mind. Everything.
Yeah, they're all going nuts. Some of the guys in the front row are like bowing over. I mean, this is just like
over the ropes. Watch Matt here. Oh my God. Like kind of, whoop. Oh God.
Wow.
Just pushing it over.
So they're all standing. I mean, how often do you see everyone standing in
Yep.
A show?
We've been doing this with 2 8-foot ladders. There isn't tables on the outside. There isn't granted, part of this was the time, because we know like Razor and Shawn was a 1 ladder, but like, did these guys expect to go out and beat the living crap out of each other this way? Probably, maybe.
And so much of this they invented. I mean, like, you had never seen like these hip tosses off the ladder and all this stuff that
it was getting more extreme, but yeah. And so, here we go. Climbing again, all 4 climbing again, but now you got the ladders kind of not parallel. Like we are not parallel to each other. So we don't know what's going to happen here. Yep. This is just madness, all kinds of stuff happening. Yeah. Sting tearing it down, and man, have they done a good job with him and Darby Allin, because
it's been perfect.
Eventually he's going to turn. Oh, whoa. That was creative. There we go. Whoa. Jeff kind of restabling the ladder. Everybody falling over. Is this it? Jeff trying to grab the bag. Can't get it though.
Got it.
And then just falls off the ladder. There you go. That was a creative spot with how they kind of tilted the ladders over and then Jeff jumping from ladder to ladder. Good stuff.
Place going nuts. All right, let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
Initial thoughts.
We have picked some not knowing this going in, we have picked some nonstop action matches these last few weeks. And this is another one where that was bell to bell. It wasn't technical rest holds. There was nothing like that. Like those guys went out and just kicked the crap out of each other, plain and simple.
Wow.
Thoughts? Yours?
Nah, it's just great. A great. I mean, that was awesome.
So,
and you've heard me say it on here before, but it bears repeating. The difference between this and some of those other more recent tag team multi-man ladder matches is this never felt choreographed.
Nope. Boy,
and these guys just, for whatever reason, that's, there wasn't like, okay, we're going to set up the next 6 spots. It was just like, boom, one thing after another. And yes, it's fake wrestling and it's ladders, but it actually felt real. It didn't feel like it was, a fake wrestling match.
So we're watching it now. And we're going to get into this. So they're literally getting a standing applause right now. And our standing ovation, of them. And so, and cutting it backstage with Terry, celebrating with the Hardys. I don't know how she's staying in that shirt, but anyways. And so
that's not a shirt. I don't know what it is, but it's not a shirt.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
It's kind of like there's no such thing as assless chaps. You're just wearing pants. Like that was not a shirt. Yeah. Anyway, so you had this match, of course, and the Hardys winning. As quoted later, one of these quotes I found here, that according to Matt Hardy, he said that match, it says WWF wrestlers, or it elevated us from WWF wrestlers to WWF superstars, which hard to disagree with that. And so obviously both guys, receiving standing ovation, or everybody receiving standing ovations. And then also I was reading, and I did go to double check, they actually got one the next night on Raw as well. And so it actually led to more ladder matches. Like there were not a whole lot up until this point. And so now we know, it seems to be happening all the time. And so that kind of happening. So, really good stuff, kind of how it just played out, things like that. And so now interesting, on this same night, the Hardy Boys actually announcing that they were no longer with the New Brood, that they were the Hardy Boys. And so this was the first time that they started calling themselves the Hardy Boys this way. And so they actually had, they kind of, shake hands, gentlemen's agreement with Edge and Christian. And that they actually then everybody attacked Gangrel because Gangrel, saying like he was now able, like, well, everybody else could go wrestle. He would be able to, quote unquote, have Terry. So, and kind of how they played up that one. And so Gangrel no longer had anything to do with any of these guys, but we all know that like the Hardy Boys kind of, they keep up that appearance, like the kind of Brood type appearance, but they were the Hardy Boys. And so, and we know, like you said, their story is still being written. So who knows what's going to happen with that. So having that, so you had everybody pursuing the tag team championships at this point. You had a lot of matches together. You also start to bring in the Dudley Boys as well too. And as we know, this eventually capped off. We had Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, and the Dudley Boys in the WrestleMania 2000 match was like the next big match, if you will, where these guys had, which again, if you go back in the Payoff archives, that was one I went back. That was episode number 33, which feels like so long ago.
I know.
And so, because we're on 113 is what this one is. So episode 113 is today, but that was episode 33 back in the Payoff archives. And that was a great one. Go back and check that one out too, because it's absolutely worth it. So, okay. So rankings, where do we fall on this one? PWI, you had Matt was 100, Jeff was 76, Edge was 83, and Christian was 90, which it feels really like that feels super high for these guys. But you got to remember at the time, like they'd only been going for 6 months, not even really 5 months. And this was really like kind of the big cap off to like, the initial like stepping stone matches and kind of, things that they had been doing up into this point. So Some interesting takes here. And so with Slam Wrestling, I got a bunch of different ones this time. And so this should be good. So Slam Wrestling said the tag match between the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian overshadowed the main event between Triple H and Steve Austin. He called the match astonishing and claimed it, quote, brought the crowd to their feet. Specifically, he claimed both the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian were, quote, the future of the Federation and deserved a, quote, hefty raise. So we then get into the PW Torch on this one, giving it 4 stars. So the Hardy Boys beat Edge and Christian in a ladder match.
4 stars?
To win the Terry Invitational Tournament, or if you haven't figured out the abbreviation now, the TIT. And so they incorporated 2 ladders and used them together to get ricochet and teeter-totter effects. At one point, all 4 climbed 2 ladders side by side. Both ladders ended up tipping over in opposite directions, with everyone taking a bump on the top rope. In the end, Jeff Hardy reached the money bag hanging from the ceiling to win the match. The Hardys celebrated with Terry backstage. This was a great ooh-ah match with a ton of amazing and innovating high spots. But the crowd heat wasn't based around the drama of the match. They just applauded whenever they saw a great high spot. 4 stars. And so the ladder tag was as spectacular of a match as you'll see this year. It was 4 young, energized, athletically gifted, hardworking, hungry wrestlers putting on a show-stopping performance. That said, it was not better than the first Shawn Michaels versus Razor match, which I rated 5 stars at the time. It wasn't the culmination of a feud with layers of emotion attached. The fans never cheered one team over another. They just cheered the risks wrestlers were taking to entertain them. It was a Rob Van Dam versus Sabu style match with the same good and bad attributes. There was never a dull moment, but that means the match was thoroughly entertaining, but not necessarily a classic. This match would have been equally enjoyable had all of the same moves been performed by 4 great athletes who the fans had never seen before. The same cannot be said for Michaels versus the Ramon Classic. The fans cared about the specific personalities, and that played into the emotions of the actions, thus making it the match better, or making that match better. Maybe such analysis could be categorized as quote, thinking too hard or overanalyzing, but it doesn't make sense that a match that thrills you and draws in your emotions should be considered better than a match that just thrills you. On a side note, as cool as the overhead camera was, and it has been used before, it shouldn't have been used until more time had passed before Owen Hart's death. And so that was the point. That was what I was thinking.
That's fair.
Owen Hart had died 5 months previous to this. And so, something to think about. So we're going to come back to the players. I'll let you talk about it, but I thought that was interesting. And that was all PW Torch. Now, the Observer newsletter on this one, they gave this one 4.5 stars. So we got 4 stars and 4.5 stars. And so before an advanced sellout crowd, Edge and Christian took a big step toward being recognized as something more than people in the pack, garnering a standing ovation for their ladder match, which features a series of creative and high-risk spots built around the ladder. Even with one of the stronger main events of the year, with WWF champ Hunter Hearst Helmsley finally garnering his long-awaited win over Steve Austin when the Rock interference backfired, it was the younger wrestlers who left a lasting impression and were the subject of, quote, the buzz after the show. A must-see match because any of these guys, here's a hot take, a must-see match because any of these guys make it to the top. It'll be remembered as their first great match. The fans gave the match a standing ovation, 4.5 stars. And so, boy, first great match. Like these, I hope these kids make it, seriously. So you got 4, you got 4.5. You have some interesting takes built in the reviews here, but high marks. What do you got, Tom? Especially after hearing that, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of what I heard in both reviews. The only thing I'll add to it is it was so innovative at the time. It created 4 new stars, and then you add in the Dudleys and everything that would come. And I mean, these are 4 first ballot Hall of Famers that were nothing at this point other than solid tag team wrestlers that, could have just kind of faded away. And look at what has become of them. Look at the matches that happened afterwards. For all of those reasons, and really emphasizing what happened after this, I give this a 9. I just think I think historically, this is a huge moment because it came out of nowhere. It's not like, hey, we've got Drew McIntyre and we're going to make him a huge star by having him win the Royal Rumble. These guys created this, and they, were given a Terry Invitational tournament thing and handed a ladder match. And what they did with it shaped the industry, created 4 Hall of Famers, did a ton of stuff that really was super innovative for the time, reinvigorated tag team wrestling. You can look at everything that happens today in tag team wrestling and wonder, would all of those guys be tag team wrestlers? Would tag team wrestling be what it was if it weren't for these guys in this match? This match was in the middle of the card with 4 guys that were not huge stars at the time. It didn't have to be anything. But because we're talking about it and because of what it did, I believe it has significant historic perspective. It was created by the 4 of these guys, not because of anyone booking anything. So for that, to me, it's a really, really big moment, really big night, and I give it a 9.
I'm sitting right there with you, actually. And so I think that for the exact same reasons that you're saying, I think that I do somewhat I think you can get to the point about it being Razor and Sean and being invested in them and their story that they're. It's hard to. I don't think you can ignore the fact that you can get invested over the course of a match, and I think that's kind of exactly how this played out. Of even if you weren't totally on board with these guys, or you didn't know the full story, or kind of what the deal was and stuff like that, they got you invested over the course of a 20-minute match, which is exactly how it should be most times. And so it's you get hooked in. And so I don't agree with the point of, well, you can put any 4 stars and any 4 new people and let them go out and do what they did, and you would have gotten the same results. I don't agree with that, especially in retrospect. That's not a thing. I don't think that's true. But because I think that these guys get you into the match as you went through, which is why you were seeing things you weren't used to. You were seeing things that nobody had done before. And because of that reason, it's worth it to stay committed and see what was happening. And so, I absolutely think that along with everything else you said, there's no reason that, this shouldn't be looked at as one of those matches for why aren't we talking about this match more? Not you and me, but in general, this is one of those, I get everybody goes to Sean and Razor, but this really set a bar too. Really incredible with how it, what we were looking at. And these guys to think boy, this was really in the very early days of these types of things happening. And so I'm interested too. And so at this point, before these guys, there was only 8 true kind of ladder matches before this one. The first one being you figure, Brett and Sean had a 1992 one, but then you had Razor and Sean in 1994. And then this one in 1999. In between that time, there was only 5 ladder matches. And then to do this, because the one previous to this was Shane and Vince beating Stone Cold during King of the Ring. And so and then to do something like this, boy, it's hard to overlook that. And we really should be talking about it more because of what they did.
Yeah, what a fun one to watch. I really enjoyed this a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Really good stuff.
Well, good.
Shout out to Terry Runnels for being, on Dark Side, and then in this too, and having, we need an invitational named after her again. It won't happen, but it doesn't mean that I won't support it. So,
yeah, maybe we'll get her on the show someday.
Do you remember what her finishing move was when she did wrestle?
I have no idea. Let's hear it.
Bronco Buster.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense.
All right. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week on an episode I'm really looking forward to.
You're very excited about this one. You want to let them know? Yeah.
No, we're not going to let them know.
All right. That's fine.
You'll see next Monday.
This is all you. Let's do it.
All right. We'll see you next week on an all new episode of The Payoff.